Hi, Simon.
Hey, Lisa, how are you?
I'm doing
Long,
well.
long time no see.
I know, twice in 1 week.
Oh, wow.
Let's tell our listeners, viewers, what it is why we saw each other.
Well, we had a little bit of a reunion for
Mm-hmm.
one of the companies that we both used to work for.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a ton of fun, actually, seeing everybody. Um,
So fun.
yeah, a lot of people look really similar. A lot of people look like they have a
We
little
just have
more,
grayer hair. Yeah.
yeah, a few more
Yeah.
dents in the fenders, but yeah, it was really fun to see folks, and big thanks to Kimberly Stevens for coordinating and Jay Middleton for entertaining. Um, Jay is a great, interesting story. Let me just say, he's a SEO guru, but he made his big career change into music, and he has a band and recordings, and so
Yeah, he always performed. So even when he was working with us, he
that's
always
true.
had gigs, but then, he just decided to take it full time, and he looks like he couldn't be happier. Like I'm
Yeah.
so happy for him. Like he's got an amazing voice, and yeah, so anybody wants to check him
And
out.
I would say this Kimberly Stevens is another really, she was in sales and e-commerce, all kinds of different startups, as well as where we work together. And now she's doing a job that is really about bringing others joy. Like, in a sense, she's a bartender. She works at the Shark Tank. She does lots of different things.
Well, for people that don't live in the Bay Area, say
Oh,
what
sorry.
the Shark Tank is for us.
People know what the Shark Tank is.
They think it's a TV show.
SAP Arena.
It's where the San Jose Sharks play.
Yes,
so she's been kind of pulling together, and she's so kind of outgoing and extroverted that it's and just
she's
does
still
like a
doing
joyful personality. Yeah,
exactly. She's so happy to see me, and I haven't seen her in how many years, right? But I mean, a lot of folks were like that, and it was just really good. So big shout out to the whole crew. It was good to see you all, and it's actually kind of ironic because it's one of our points today about low cost sort of marketing tips and tools we're going to talk about.
Now, I know how you made that connection. Why don't you explain what the connection is there?
I wanted people to listen till the end.
Yeah.
Networking and word of mouth is one of the best ways that you can have. You can market yourself or market your product. And a lot of times it just happens naturally as you see folks that you're excited.
Which is what happened.
Exactly.
What happened to us, and it's like you're asking. I was almost said asking, asking people what they've been up to, and then you're like, oh, I know somebody over here that's doing that. Maybe you guys should talk or.
And that's
so
another really good point.
About.
Is sometimes networking isn't actually about getting you a job or a gig or whatever, but it's just helping connect another person. You're like, oh, I know someone who does, landscape design, or I know someone who does, marketing or email marketing, whatever it is. Yep. But networking is really great for that. And it's always usually fun. Like, it doesn't have to be.
And we're not just talking about networking, because it's probably only so much. Like, I think we just completed that whole conversation. But we wanted to cover more like the low cost or no cost things you can do, and it's just more sweat equity than anything else. So you do have to do the work. But if you are strapped for cash and you need to get some, what are kind of scrappy ways to do things, one thing that I didn't think about.
Yeah.
What? Oh, no, let me finish. There's growth hacking. That was very much a theme. It was a thing. Like, oh, are you a growth hacker? And companies were looking for for candidates. Yeah. That had this like growth hacking mindset. And it all that is like, can you be, to me, that's like it's a marketing term of like, can you be scrappy with not a lot of money? That's really what that translates to. Yeah.
Sure. It's like guerrilla marketing, right?
It's the same thing, but they changed the name. So growth hacking.
Well, I was going to say the good news is some of these things are free too. Yeah. So as we go through them, we'll highlight those. So, hey, do you have
hey,
hey, I could tell a story about an email that started with the subject line, hey, but that's a whole nother
you
story. Hey, what's up? So what are the misconceptions about marketing that cost money or not cost money?
What?
Well,
I don't know what you're asking.
I'm asking you a lot of people believe that if they don't spend money on something, it's not
Oh,
going
I
to be
see.
effective.
Sure.
Right.
That-
and the
that
more
is-
money
yeah,
you
right,
spend,
okay.
the more better it is, the more
More
goodly
better,
it is.
more better.
More goodly. Yeah.
No, that's true. And good point that it's maybe people aren't like, oh, if it costs more, this must mean it's good. What does happen though is sometimes people get wooed by like all these promises that some piece of software or some service can make. And you're like, oh, that's going to make my life easier. I'm going to do that. But oftentimes it's like, sometimes it's not, especially if you can't use it. Like sometimes there's tools to help you do something better, but if you don't have the time to actually use it, you're just wasting money. So
amen.
Yeah.
I mean, just like you said, even if it's free or low cost, the key ingredient is you, right? If you can't make time and invest in it, it's probably not worth it to do it no matter what. Do you have an example of maybe someone that you've worked with or another small business?
I've done it. No, I've done it myself. Of like something that I'm not using. Sorry, I just totally.
No.
I'm reading your mind.
Oh, sorry. Well, it could be something that you not using now.
Is that what you were?
No,
is that what you were going to ask me? Well, ask me what you were going to
not.
ask me. Okay, ask me what you're going to ask me.
I was going to ask you about the success side of things. We always try to stay positive on our show.
Well, I mean, but also I can admit my mistakes. So I'll quickly tell my mistake and then get into on the positive side.
Leave
so
it happy.
Mistakes. Yeah, we'll leave it happy. But I think part of it is like, I like to experiment with stuff. And especially if I can play around with something where I then get a little bit familiar with it. So maybe it's something that I would recommend for a client to use, like, and so it's not necessarily wasting money in that way. It's research. There's a couple of tools that I've used that are, we have talked about that, and it's a good tool. So don't take this as a knock, is SEMrush. So you and I have talked about that. It is a very good tool to kind of help you. It is great. It's a little pricey, and I just wasn't getting value out of it because I did not have the time to go put into it to make it useful. So that was one example.
Sidebar, we probably could come up with an ROI tool that we could put on the website to put in where folks can put in the dollar amount of something and the hours that they have available to work on it and what the perceived value of either based on your priorities, right? It may be really important to, let's say, have a really solid email communications platform. So the value's higher, but there's a higher cost or a higher amount of time required. If we could probably come up with the ROI calculator like that.
I like that. Return on investment, if people don't know what that is.
Thank you.
Another tool that I've used.
So give me a success story for a small business being successful with minimal resources.
Me?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Well, I mean, I feel like my, organization, if you will, is consulting, and I pull people in to expand and contract, and I am scrappy. Like for the most part, I really am pretty lean. And I can still, I will say, because I've been in the industry for such a long time, word of mouth is a huge way that I get referrals. You probably too. It's like, and then you and I have friends that are aware of what we do, that are also very aware, and then they become our,
pitch people,
surrogate. Yeah, exactly. Where they can do that too. And then I have experimented with, as a marketer, I'm like, I should do marketing, I should do advertising, and I've done that, but it hasn't really yielded what I've like the kind of people that I want to work with. And I'm like, I don't really need to do this. I'm like, the word of mouth is good. I have a website where I have presence. People can look me up. They can read the content that I have on my blog. They can find me on LinkedIn. And
I'm thinking about, I'm not going to name them, but I'm thinking about a doctor that you and I both know who, he talked to me a little bit about how much is it worth spending on web hosting when
Oh, yeah.
and he's experimented with some things. He doesn't have the bandwidth, and most of his referrals for new clients come from, like you just said,
Other
word
patients.
of mouth, who are other patients who are happy.
Yeah.
But he wants people to be able to look him up. They forget the address. They don't remember his phone number. They need to change their appointment. So again, sometimes it just is about a bit of a brand presence and something that's really functional, tactical, like your address and your phone number. And that's enough, right?
It's enough.
So
Well,
then
and
you
even
figure out how much can I spend and not have to worry about it,
yep.
right?
And even your former, he wasn't your classmate, like my contractor, however he is too.
My neighbor.
You hired him. You
my
hired him
neighbor-
for something too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So he has no presence anywhere. He is 100% word of mouth,
He's
and
a ghost.
he's too busy. I know.
Yeah.
He's too busy anyway. And so even when people ask me, they're like, "Oh, do you have somebody?" And I'm like, "I do, but I don't think you're gonna. You got a couple years to wait because he's got a really long list." Well, okay. So we're getting
off topic, but I would say that one thing is, just like you said, with tools, sometimes you work with them and they don't really fit your workflows or your processes and things. There are people, contractors, and I was going to say this, I love our contractor guy that we both know, but I think you have to be a very special kind of client for him as well. So
that's true. I sort of filter. Like if people ask me, I sort of decide. I'm like, could they work together?
Which
I don't know.
Which is what you do as a great networker, right? You're not going to recommend somebody if you know that they're super picky about X, and you know that this person who does the work doesn't care about that. That's not their passion. So let's jump into some other,
let's talk about categories.
Yeah.
What are some categories? Well, the first thing I was thinking of is, again, a lot of people can jump into social media because they already are engaged in social media in some way. So
you mean the 13-year-old, in the family?
Yeah, but I mean, like, people are, people's parents are on Facebook, or it's like people are familiar with how to post something, how to engage. It's a little bit. So to me, that's almost one of the first things you can do is start to do, you create a business account. Usually it's best to create a business account. If it's Facebook, well, I guess it's Meta as the parent company, but then Facebook and Instagram in particular are integrated with one another. So often if you are posting on one platform, you can post on the other one kind of at the same time. You might have to look at the size, the
image.
What do you call it? Yeah, but the dimensions,
the
ratio, the aspect ratio might be different because it's a square for Instagram, and I think could be either horizontal or vertical for Facebook. So you just have to see how it would look. But you can start with that, and over time that can turn into, maybe I need to boost this, which costs a little bit of money. Maybe I need to go to paid advertising.
Yeah, and we have a whole had a conversation, and we probably should have another one on paid media and strategies and things like that. But you're right, you can just get started.
Did we talk about paid media? I feel like we did.
No, we haven't yet.
Oh yeah, okay, because we did an overview, but we haven't gone into it in more detail.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we do have to do that, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point, like you said, it's as grandparents, you post pictures of your grandkids and you're not really trying to optimize. But as you think about it from your business perspective, you have to start to think about the things you're going to tie it to as far as keywords or your audience types or target audience, things like that. And again, we've touched on a little of those things. And I think another episode we should probably plan on is something around tips and tricks for Instagram and LinkedIn. I mean, those are the two big ones for real business, I think.
TikTok.
Oh, well, we don't know what's going to happen,
if it's going to be around.
Yeah. 2 days, 3 days.
Yeah.
So,
what are some tools? Yeah. I was just thinking, are there tools to help you manage posting, all right, sorry. Backing up. So, you can just you can post things willy-nilly, or you're like, I have a block of time that I can create all these things, but I don't want to send them all. I don't want to post them all at once. You can use tools that are schedulers. And again, the business account for Facebook or Meta would allow you to do that scheduling. But then there's also other tools. If you have multiple platforms that you are posting to,
Right.
you can create schedules for that. So you're like, I want to push this out on this day, and it'll do it for you, which is a huge time savings.
Right. And without going into detail, I was just going to say, why schedule? Why not just dump 10 of these at once? And I think it comes down to what's called frequency and reach. And you can have, show up with new, fresh. You always want to be fresh, right? Google loves fresh. People love fresh. So if you schedule something every 3 days or every, 5 days or once a week
No, you should be posting multiple times a day because people are not always going to see your thing. Yeah.
If I agree. If you can afford it, again, it comes down to how many hours, how much assets. Because if you post 3 times a day, you don't want to post the same thing, right? You want to do something different or something related. Different. Yeah. Okay.
But you can reuse things.
Absolutely.
Again, later on in the week or on different platforms. So something you post on Instagram, you can post on LinkedIn or X or something like that.
That's why scheduling is important.
Yeah. Also, it's a time saver. You know what I mean? It's like
exactly.
you don't want to just pile everything up on one day. You want to spread them out.
So how about we touched on scheduling and images? Canva
well, we didn't talk
another
about
option.
Well, yeah. So Canva for the creation part, but then also it's a little known fact that you can, if I create some sort of like an Instagram post in Canva or Adobe Express, I always have to mention that that's an option because a lot of people use Canva and it's good to have alternatives. Within that, you can say, okay, I want to post this to Instagram and Facebook and whatever. And I want to do it on this day. So both of those. And then there's other ones that you can use that are strictly scheduling tools. I think Later is one. And Buffer is another one.
And
Hootsuite is another one, but that costs money.
I was going to say there's some specifically for like X, formerly known as Twitter, things like that. So.
Okay, then why don't we talk, since we touched on Canva, there are low or no cost content creation type of tools.
Sure.
That, creating content could be words, blog posts, articles, the social posts, that's content, videos is content. YouTube is free. So if you want to start a YouTube channel, that doesn't cost you anything.
Right. But you do have, like you said, you have to create content for it.
You have to creating content. It's a beast. You and I know. We're like, we've got a podcast and a YouTube channel that we post something every week. And so you have to create it or else it's not going to be there.
But it sounds like we have to post 3 times a day. So we have to get on that.
We got to get on it. I know. We're not very good at it. It's all been word of mouth so far.
So what are some of those tools that help with copy and content creation?
Yeah, I think most people know. We just had an episode about AI. So using ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, which is Anthropic is the name of the company with that. Microsoft has Copilot. Google has Gemini. Facebook and Meta has Llama, unless they changed the name.
Or is it Llama?
It's Llama.
Llama?
I think it's an LLM is kind of how they came up with that large language model. How they came up with that. I'm speculating, but that's how I think they came up with it. Anyway, some or all of those have a free version, and then they might have limits, but it's $20 a month for the paid version for most of these, which to me is worth it. Like, it's much better. You don't come across these limits.
They even have some privacy modes, right? We touched on that a little bit.
Yes. So I have a team plan for ChatGPT, which means that it won't take my content, my queries, and feed it back into the model for other people to know. Because I'm like, my client is, I'm pretty specific, and it's like I don't want the world to be. And you can upload. This is as an aside, it's not content creation, but you can upload a spreadsheet and say, tell me about this data. And so, you just don't want any of that stuff to be pulled back into it. And then, wait, I want to mention another one, which is there's other tools that are, so Grammarly is specific to helping you, like it's a plugin you can put in your email, for example. It can help you edit your emails. Google does have that now. Gemini is embedded with Gmail, so it can kind of
search, which is
and search.
If you use Google
that's
search.
That's it on the side. This is more about the content creation side.
Sure.
And then what else? Contently, does that also do that? I don't even know. So I don't know. That might be something else.
I think it's a CMS.
Oh,
content. I can't remember. There's too many names.
All right, so
same.
Forget about that one.
Yeah.
Scratch that out. Redact.
Strike from the record.
Strike from the record. And so those are on the word side. I've used something that I call lumens, but the S is actually a 5. I assume that's how you pronounce it, but I don't know. That one, it creates videos for you where you can upload a transcript, you can put a voice recording, you can upload slides, and it'll turn it into a video. So that's one of the ones that I bought that for a year, because it was initially I'm like, oh, I'm going to create these animations, I'm going to do all these things. And then my subscription was coming to renewal next month. And I'm like, I don't think I'm going to use this, because while it was great, and the paid version they have watermarks. So there is a free version of this. The paid version removed the watermarks, and it allowed me to have my own customized branding. Whereas the free version, at the very end of the video, it'll be made by Lumens. It's a big thing at the end, which I didn't want. And then it has templates that you can use, but it's kind of a handy thing. If you wanted, let's say you're doing training or something, it's a pretty nice little tool that we could use.
Right.
And then there's other things like Adobe Stock or Pexels, where you can grab video clips and stuff like that to use.
Yep.
Story Blocks is the one that I was thinking of. Paramita used to work there. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Enough of me talking. Well, do you have anything else to add? No. That was just all. Okay.
Tell us, what's the next topic?
Email.
All right. Email marketing.
Yeah. We did do a whole episode of email marketing, so we might want to.
Yeah. We can just highlight that MailChimp, Convert a lot of the ConvertKit. Sorry.
Yeah.
If you have a minimal number of contacts, less than say 200, it's typically free. And they usually have tiered services, as you need more features, want to send more emails, things like that. But email is still an important tool for building and nurturing clients. We talk about, social media is where it's at, but depending on your audience, and this is where you need to understand your audience, email may actually be really effective.
Well, yeah. I mean, in the email episode, we talked about, it's now what? You collect people's email addresses as part of your strategy, and then now what do you do with them? But okay, so that you mentioned the under 200 contacts. And again, if you are more interested in email, we have a full episode all about email. And we did mention there's some other platforms that we talked about. We talked about Klaviyo, we talked about Constant Contact, and we talked about HubSpot. So those are other ones that all have a free version. Mm-hmm. And usually what it is that, again, it's usually under, say, 200 or 250 around their contacts. And when you're first starting out, you probably don't have a lot of contacts that you're going to email. Clear distinction, though. You can have a ton of people in your, let's say I have 10,000 people, but if you mark in your database, which is usually in your email platform or customer relationship management platform,
CRM.
If you have them all marked as not marketable, in other words, I am not going to reach out to these people, you won't get charged you have 10,000 contacts. So you can keep adding to your database, but as soon as you say, all right, I'm going to email these people, that's when the charges start to kick in. And HubSpot in particular, while I love them that they're free, they have free CRM for life. They do get expensive very quickly with when you start to increase the size of the people that you want to actually mail to. So that's
Yep.
just as an aside.
Yep.
Okay, so should
And
we
you
move
were
on?
and you were
Yeah.
just touching on the fact that we say capture email on your website, and
Yep.
but you've got to follow up. And the
We've said that
recommendation
before,
is
too.
some sort of nurturing sort of series, right, where you keep feeding them information a bit over time in each different
Yep.
email, things like that. So
Yep.
that's something email does really well.
And then keeping on track of the like free or low cost stuff. And you and I always say this, that you have to always be measuring.
always
It's
be
like,
measuring.
yeah, you got to track everything, because it's like, what's
Right.
the point? Like, if you don't know, you're just like, oh, I want a billboard. You know how I love my billboards. Not. So always be tracking things. And we've talked about Google Analytics quite a bit. And then you just introduced me to, what's Microsoft's thing called?
So Microsoft has a product called Clarity, and it's free. The reason it's free is Microsoft is gathering your data, and they're using it to optimize other tools of theirs. So it informs maybe how they have other products, other websites, things like that. So there's definitely an exchange if you're going to do Clarity.
Well, Google too.
Sure.
I mean, they are. It's not like they're not doing that.
Oh, they're doing it even more.
Yeah.
The cool thing about Clarity is it actually does recordings. So for a website, you can actually see what's happening, what people are clicking on, the pages they visit, things like that. That's not a native feature of Google Analytics, and you actually can integrate the two, so you get even more data.
I have another little tool. So I got introduced, and maybe you had this at Roku, I don't know. Content Square. Did you guys use that?
Yep.
Does that cost anything?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Then maybe never mind. Well, that'll do the recordings as well, and that'll show you. It's almost like it's an overlay.
Right. And it's actually a super powerful tool.
Yeah.
But it is definitely not free, and definitely again, it falls in the category of it sounds really slick and everything, but there's a lot, one, to set up, and two, just to be able to actually get value out of it, you have to spend time in it.
All right, never mind. So forget about that. That's what not to include in your podcast about low and no cost marketing.
Yeah, but if you're a corporation and you don't have a customer analytics sort of tool, customer experience tool, Content Square.
You know what? Another thing that I just thought about is, so we talked about content a little bit ago. We create content because it will help with driving traffic, wherever, to your site or whatever. SEO, search engine optimization, is that. I would say most companies, typically over half or like 3/4 of the traffic that comes to their website is from what we call organic search. And so these are people who are literally like typing something in, and you have content on your website that Google has found that is like, oh, this is related to what that person is searching for. So it doesn't cost you anything, but you're getting people coming to your site. So Simon, are there tools that help you with on the like SEO side that are free or low cost? There's a
couple tools. Search Console is free from Google. You just have to set it up, and you can get some insight. You can't always tell what search words are specifically performing. There's a product called Ubersuggest for doing some basic keyword research.
Have you used that before?
I have not.
Okay.
There's some really good plugins. SEO One Click, I think it's called, for Chrome, and that will let you see that your site is configured for SEO or optimized. There are certain characteristics that every site needs, or every page.
Can I tell you something? So sidebar.
Sidebar.
I don't want to name names, but there was a website that I am involved in that we kept wondering why, and it's a modest company, but they were like wondering why if I type the name of the company or if I'm typing something, it's not coming up in search. And that seemed very surprising to me. Like I actually couldn't answer it. I'm like, it should be. Like there are other things that have similar names that were coming up,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm like, why are we not coming up? And
Why?
it was because literally there was a thing checked in the website platform that said, do not crawl my website for search, was checked. So I unchecked that, and I never even would have known to look for that. It just like I was working on something else and I just sort of stumbled on that. And I said, oh, this might have something to do with our problem. So note to people, like, don't, and I don't think that's checked by default. Like, I feel like that's not something that most platforms would.
Yeah. I wonder
Yeah.
if someone was overly concerned
I
about
think
security or
they must
privacy.
have been, but even it's like, it's
I
too
mean,
bad.
it's fine. There are certain pages you don't want to have indexed by Google, but definitely not
This
your
was not-
homepage.
this was not that.
and your
No.
core pages. So
No, none of it should have been.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not that kind of company. Okay.
Okay.
What else are some free things that we could do for your low cost stuff?
I think one of the things that that you can do, again, it'll take a little bit of investment, but customer feedback is an area where partly you're going to get it if you actually just reach out to your clients, but there are some tools, for example, SurveyMonkey, where you can build a certain number of surveys out to a certain number of people for free. You just have to be okay with their branding. They're always going to try and pitch someone to sign up for free. But you can use website surveys for doing just general research. You can use it for customer satisfaction. You might want to do it for feedback on a particular area. For example, after they contact you for customer support, or maybe it's product feedback, things like that. So there's a lot of different ways you can leverage a survey to get more voice of the customer.
Voice of the customer. As a matter of fact, so what SurveyMonkey is great for those, deeper, really what, like, you can cover a bunch of different categories. And in fact, as a consumer, you probably get them a lot, like, oh, fill out tell us what you think. Like, they don't say fill out this survey. They say, tell us what you think. And you're like, I'll tell you what I think, But there's also, if you have a product that you sell, like a physical thing, and reviews are a huge part of that. So just soliciting reviews is that's a way to get feedback. It's also a way, like, it's free. All you're doing is asking, There are platforms that charge you if you want to have all of that managed. So to make it automated or programmatic, somebody writes a review and then it gets posted on your website, and all of the reviews are like Amazon. All of those are posted on Amazon. Like, they are not, that's all programmatic. Like, nobody's manually looking at that.
But there is, that's not true. There's a lot of time these companies pay for moderation. And it could be AI-based moderation, but a lot of times there's humans involved to moderate reviews. But that's
a choice you can make too, if
and
you
that
want
adds to the expense, right? But a moderated review is going to avoid getting the wrong rating or a review that's completely meaningless on your website.
Yeah. So you sell, a board game and somebody's talking about their, hair dye or something, I don't know.
Did that happen?
No. That's another, random thing.
Yeah. You guys figure that one out.
Yeah.
And we talked a lot about any other customer feedback tools that you can think of that are free, or survey tools?
The only thing I was thinking about is, like, there are sometimes widgets in like an email platform that is part of it. So I got a preview of on Tuesday, Klaviyo had announced a bunch of new features, and one of them is this, what do they call it? Like spin to win, which I was like, what is that? And it's a little different. It's a thing that it's like somebody gets an email and it's like spin to see how much of a discount you're going to get. And it's like an interactive thing. There are platforms that have widgets that are like rating 1 through 5. And then when you
Yeah.
click on your rating, then it'll take you to a website where you actually fill out a survey. So there could be some things that are integrated in that, or maybe even a website. I feel like some platforms, I don't know
I
off
was
the top
going
of
to
my
say
head.
I think there are some tools built in for like basic feedback,
Yeah.
form based tools inside of your content management system.
Well, I did think of another one actually.
Okay.
So I know HubSpot. Does Klaviyo do this? There's a lot of platforms that allow you to embed a chatbot on your site,
Mm.
and you can use that to solicit feedback. So literally you can be like, tell us how we're doing. And then it's
Is
literally,
it
you
free
can,
usually, or do you
yes,
pay for that?
actually. So
Oh,
it has so for HubSpot in particular, for their free version, it has HubSpot branding. And
okay.
then it also doesn't let you do sophisticated
Trees. Yeah.
branching. So if somebody says, this, they go here. If they say this, they go there. It doesn't let you do that without the paid version. But I
Got
think
it.
that might be free. I don't know the cost actually. If you
Okay.
wanted to just do that, it might be modest. But there's other brands that have that kind of thing that are low cost or free as
Got
well.
it.
I don't know. Any other things in general for free and low cost tools? I'm trying to think if there's something. There's other like productivity things that I've used, but it's not about marketing specifically. So certainly like Gmail, you start with that. Use Google Drive. You and I have used Google for, right? Do we use Google for our it's mostly marketing.com email? That's what we
Yeah.
use, right?
But
Yeah.
but it's
It's
not
like 20
free, but
bucks.
it's
No,
at
it's still, but it's pretty cheap.
$12 a person or something. Yeah. $6 a person.
I
It's
think it's
pretty cheap.
6 times 2 per
Yeah.
month. But that gives us, well, I don't want to tell our email addresses, but like
No.
IMM at itsmostlymarketing.com, or, what else do we have? I don't know what
I
our
think
email address is.
No, I think we have contact us at
Yeah, something like that at
Yeah.
itsmostlymarketing.com. Yeah, so those kind of things. And those are actually aliases, so that's a whole other thing. Actually, free alias. You have an email address that you have, and then you can create aliases, which it counts towards that email. Does that make sense?
I don't know.
I
It
don't
might have
know.
gone too far.
I think I went a little too far.
I was just going to say, I'm sort of thinking about wrapping that, we've listed a bunch of stuff, like pick two, start there. Like maybe you want to just start, like Lisa was saying, experimenting with a free survey tool to see what you can learn about your customer or things like that. Maybe
you gotta. I feel like you gotta have analytics. If you have a website, you have to have analytics, and I think
okay.
anything you're
That's
doing,
fair.
like I kind of would make sure that that's in there. All the other stuff, like content creation, is also a you kind of have to do that to then have social, to have email, to have like you kind of need to.
So maybe it's less about maybe you need a combination of these things, but you don't need to try 3 different graphic design tools.
Unless you want.
Yeah, but start with one. I know, you probably don't have a lot of time. Start with one, see if you like it. If you don't, switch to the other one, right?
It's true. I will say with the AI tools, I've used kind of all of them, and I have a paid account for Claude, which is by Anthropic, and ChatGPT, which is by OpenAI, because I find that their responses are different. And I mean, of course, their responses are different, but one might be better at one thing than another. So for me, I've chosen to use multiple. Certainly with social media, there's multiple things that you are going to be, like there's tons of different platforms. But then like if you pick one tool to then use as your scheduling, there might be pros and cons where maybe one of them has more options of where you can post to versus, and maybe you're like, I only need 2, or something, and that's enough.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's probably a good place to, I don't know. Anything else you want to cover? Do we want to summarize in any way?
No, I just think that we'll continue to include free and low cost options when we talk about these topics in detail. So stay tuned and, listen. Also, I think we'll take a look see what we can do around that ROI tool.
That's a good idea. And then do you want to sound us off?
Sure. From tangents to tactics.
It's mostly marketing.